Okay, guys, here is the polynomial review. So we're going to take this review. The test is next class, so hopefully this will help. I will do the odds, and you are responsible for completing the entire review, and it is due before your test. Okay, so here, this situation, I am adding. Okay, so when you're finding the sum, this is addition. We are going to combine like terms. So we're looking to combine like terms. We are not multiplying, we're adding. So we're going to look at this. N squared is the same as n squared. And these integers, I can combine those. Since I'm adding, if I distribute that plus sign, it does not change the sign. So n squared plus 6n squared is going to give me 7n squared. Negative 2 minus 7, or plus negative 7, is going to give me negative 9. So there's the first problem. Problem number 3, again, now I'm looking for the difference, so I'm subtracting. I'm still combining like terms. The difference is I need to distribute this negative. So I'm going to rewrite the whole sentence because I find that's easier than trying to change the signs within the problem. So 3n squared minus 6n plus 6. Nothing in this first one changes because none of that is, the negative sign is after that polynomial. Then this negative gets distributed to the 7. The negative gets distributed to the negative n squared, so that becomes a positive n squared. And minus 5n. This is a much cleaner way to distribute that negative sign, is just to go ahead and rewrite the whole entire equation. Then I'm going to combine my like terms. I've got my n squared with my n squared to get 4n squared. Then I've got 6n minus 5n. Negative 6n minus 5n is going to give me minus 11n. Then I've got 6 and negative 7. So when I combine those, I'm going to get minus 1. And I can go ahead and cross these out as I am doing them so that I then see there's no leftovers. So here is my answer. Moving on. Now it's saying simplify each sum. Again, addition. Addition and subtraction mean combine like terms. Okay? So I'm going to find out which ones are the same. I'm going to look for my biggest exponent first. So there's k to the third. There's a k to the third, and I've got no other k to the thirds. 2k to the third, or cubed, plus 2 cubed. 2k cubed is going to give me 4k cubed. And I can go ahead and cross those out now. Then I'm going to look for all the k squareds. Right here and right here. When I combine those, negative k squared plus 5k is going to give me positive 4k squared. Here's how you think of it. If you literally had something in your hand called a k to the second power, and you would have 4 of them in your hand. If you had 5 of them, 5 of the k squareds, and you took 1 away, you would now have 4 of them. You have to think of this as a single unit. Okay? Then, so I can cross these out. Done with those. Now I'm going to look for my 8Ks. or my k's, just the regular k variable. And this right here, I don't have any others, so I'm going to just use that one by itself. So plus 8k, I can cross that out. And now I'm just left with the two integers. 4 plus 4 is 8. And so there we have it. That is my answer. Moving on. Now it says simplify each expression. So we're basically combining it, subtracting and adding. Again, I like to leave very little room for error. So I'm going to rewrite the whole sentence and distribute my negative sign. So it would say 4n to the 4th plus 4n minus 6n minus positive, or minus a negative is a positive, 7n to the 3rd plus n minus n to the 4th minus 7n to the 3rd. Another benefit of doing that is now I'm kind of familiar with what all of the terms are. And so I can combine my like terms a little more easily because I've already written them one time. So I know that n to the 4th is my biggest n term. So starting there, I'm going to use those first. 4n to the 4th minus n to the 4th gives me 3n to the 4th. So I can cross those out. Now n to the 3rd, 7n to the 3rd minus 7n to the 3rd, that's 0. So I'm not even going to bother writing anything down for that because those literally cross each other out. So that is 0. So my next term would be n squared. I don't have any n squareds, so I don't have to worry about that. Then my last term is going to be n, oh, and I missed one, n. So when I combine 4n minus 6n, I get negative 2n plus n is negative 1n. So actually, I could just negative n. So this should be n, or 3n to the 4th minus n. Okay? There we go. And I can cross these out because I've used them all. See, and I noticed that all of them are used. I distributed my negatives correctly, so we're all good. Okay, now finding each product. What does that mean? That is multiplication. When we multiply, we are multiplying numbers. The numbers get multiplied, and the exponents, so the little exponents, get added. All right, so I'm going to distribute this to each of the terms. 4p to the 4th times 7p to the squared. I'm going to multiply the coefficients. 4 times 7 is 28. Then I'm going to multiply the variables by adding the exponents. So 4 plus 2 is 6. 4 times 6 is 24. P to the 4th. P, we know that there's a little mini 1 there, so that's going to be P to the 5th. Minus, because there's a negative, 4 times 2 is 8. P to the 4th, because that's just like multiplying it by 1. So here is my distributed answer. Okay, moving on. Now I'm going to either use, so here we were just distributing, because we only had a monomial times a polynomial. Now we have two binomials, so we can either use the FOIL method or the box method. And as we know, the FOIL method is basically like the box method. They're both the same type of thing. We're distributing the 7b to both the b and the 8, and then we're distributing the 5 to the b and the 8. So we've got, if we're going to use the box method, that seems to be the favorite. I'm going to put 7b minus 5 here, and b and 8 there. If you hear that banging, it's the roofers. So 7b times b is 7b squared. b times negative 5 is negative 5b, because now we're multiplying. So we're not worried about like terms. We're just multiplying everything. 7b times 8 is 56b. And 8 times 5, negative 5, is negative 40. So then I'm going to combine my like terms, which are these, and I get 7b squared. 56b minus 5b is positive 51b, and then negative 40. Okay. All right, moving on. Number 12. These are a binomial and a trinomial. Sorry, that's blurry. Okay, there's a binomial and a trinomial. So we're going to create our binomial times a trinomial square. And I'm going to put my 5n here, my negative 4 here. Then I've got my 4n squared plus 6n and minus 2. Then, when I multiply this by this, and I put it in this box. So I'm putting 4 times 5 is 20, and n times n squared is n to the third. There's multiplying n by itself 3 times. And 5 times 6 is 30. And n times n is multiplied by itself 2 times. I didn't do my box big enough, I guess. 5n times negative 2 is going to be negative 10n. That should be over there. There we go. Sorry. Then we've got 4 times negative 4, and that's negative 16. I don't have an n, so n squared is being basically multiplied by 1, so I just bring that in here. 6 times negative 4 is 24. N. And negative 2 times negative 4 is going to give me positive 8, and negative times negative is a positive. So when I combine my like terms, I see there's 2 n squareds. My answer is going to be 20 n to the third right here. When I combine 30 and 16, I get positive 14 n squared, because 30 minus 16, and negative 10n plus positive 24n, or should that be a negative? I think that's a negative. 6n times negative 4, so that should be a negative. Ooh, I almost made a mistake. So that is going to give me minus 34n and plus 8. So I get, there we go. I caught my mistake, luckily. All right, moving on. we have the length of a side of a square is 9x. We know that the area of a square is the side times itself. So some people are going to look at that and say all sorts of things, but it's not 81x, because we need to square not only the 9, but we also need to square the x. So it's x squared. Hopefully that's the same as 9x times 9x. So 9x squared, which equals 81x squared. All right. This, again, you're just combining like terms. Combining like terms. There's no indication of any multiplication. It's only adding and subtracting. Okay? Then here is solving for x. So now we actually need to solve for x. Okay? So we're just going to distribute. So we get negative 49x plus 42. And now I need to get all my numbers on one side of the equal sign, my x on the other side of the equal sign. So I need to start doing my inverse operations. I'm going to subtract 42 from both sides. I'm going to do this before I start dividing by 49. I'm going to get everything over there that I can. I get negative 196 equals negative 49x. When I plug that into my calculator, negative 196 divided by 49, the answer is negative 4. Okay. Oh, never mind. I made a mistake. That's not negative 4, it's positive 4. Because I'm dividing a negative by a negative. So this should be a positive 4. Hopefully you guys caught that before I did. Alright. And moving on. So that's positive. Now, to find the slope of a line, slope, the formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So we know that here is my x, here is my y, here is my x2, and here is my y2. So we're going to 20 here minus 20 divided by 14 minus a negative 5. 20 minus 20 is 0. 14 minus a negative is going to give me a positive, so I get 19. 0 over any number is going to equal 0. So what, if you have a line with a slope of 0, think about what that looked like. That would be a horizontal line. Okay. Moving on. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of this line. So whenever you're doing slope-intercept form, the first thing you're going to do is move your x. And you have to do that by either adding or subtracting the x. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. and I get 6y equals negative x minus 6. The second thing I'm going to do is divide by the number or the coefficient in front of y. Okay, so now I'm going to divide everything by 6. And the reason why I'm picking 6 is so that these will cross out and equal 1. So I get 1y on the left, negative 1/6 x minus 6 over 6 is 1. So there's my slope-intercept form of this line right there. This is a 6. Okay? And to do these review questions, what do we know about parallel lines? They have the same slope. And if I know that I have a line that's going to be parallel to this line, I know that my slope is going to be the same. So how I do that is I take this x and this y and I plug it in to this equation. Now I know I have y equals mx plus b. And I'm looking for a line in this form that goes through this point and is parallel to this. So I'm going to basically plug these numbers into my x and my y. So I'm going to have negative 5 as my y. And I know I need to have the same slope, so it's going to be 8 divided by 3 as my m, and negative 2 as my x. Now the one variable that we don't know is the b. So I need to figure out what the b is going to be, what the y-intercept will be in this new equation. And multiply everything out. Now you can do it in fractions or in decimals. I prefer fractions, so I multiply negative 2 times 8 and I get negative 16 over 3 plus b. Then now I've got to move this over to the other side because I want to get all my numbers on the left and my variables on the right. So I'm going to add 16 over 3 to both sides. However, I've got a fraction and a whole number, adding them together. I need to figure out what this number is going to be in fraction form. So negative 5 is going to be negative 15 over 3. I pick the same denominator so I can add my numerators. And what do I get? I get 16 over 3 minus 15 over 3, which equals 1/3. So my b, 1/3, is going to equal my b. That is not my answer. That is the b. So now how do I plug it in for my answer? Because what it's saying is it doesn't say find b. It's saying what is the equation of the line described. This is not an equation. My equation is going to be y equals the slope of 8 over 3x plus my new y-intercept of 1/3. This is your answer. Do not stop until you get an answer in this form. Okay? I'm not going to do this one for you, but I am going to tell you that the slope of a perpendicular line is the opposite reciprocal, which means that this, if it's positive, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it becomes positive. And it gets flipped upside down. So the slope of this line would be the opposite reciprocal. So you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to plug in your x and your y using the slope that you want of the perpendicular line. So in this case, it would be the opposite reciprocal of this number. So you would plug in your x and your y. You'd use your opposite reciprocal slope. You would solve for b. But then you're not going to be done until you give the equation in that form. Okay, I hope this helped. See you guys in the next class.